Insurance plays an important role in providing financial security and peace of mind in the face of an unexpected event. People often don't put enough time into getting it right. However, it is something that can really affect you, especially when you're at your most vulnerable. In this video, I'm going to try and provide a simple overview of some of the more less common insurances and how they work, so you can make informed decisions about the coverage that you may need. I think it's also worth mentioning that this video right here was made prior to this one, which talks about some of the more common insurances that everyone should consider taking out and definitely look into throughout their lives. If you're interested in learning more about those specific topics, which won't be discussed in today's video, feel free to go and give that video a watch after this one. I've linked it down in the description below, and hopefully you get some value out of it if this is what you're trying to learn a little bit more about. And with that being said, let's get straight into it, starting with business insurance, which has the intention of protecting a business from losses due to unforeseen events, which when you say it like that, it sounds pretty straightforward. The thing that you need to be aware of from the very high level is that there are many different types of business insurances that you can take out depending on the nature of your work, where some of the more common ones would include things like property insurance, liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, as well as business interruption insurance. In very simple terms, property insurance generally covers physical assets, so think of the building, the structure itself, as well as potentially some equipment contained within. Liability insurance will generally cover the business for claims made by third parties against injury or potentially property damage. Workers' compensation will provide cover for employees who have fallen ill or been injured whilst on the job. And finally, business interruption insurance, which will cover loss of income as well as potential expenses depending on the policy that you take out because your business is no longer able to operate for a covered loss. Moving on to number 2 now, which is known as trauma insurance, also known as critical illness insurance. This type of insurance is intended to provide financial support to someone who may have been diagnosed with a serious medical condition. Think of things like cancer, heart attack, or potentially even a stroke. Generally, this type of insurance will pay a lump sum if the policyholder is diagnosed with a covered medical condition. And the whole concept of why this type of insurance exists is for those that use it, it would allow them to focus on their recovery instead of worrying about the financial impact. Throughout my experience, trauma insurance is something that is generally disregarded. However, I could definitely see the value of taking out a policy like this or including it in my insurance portfolio. Let's call it an insurance portfolio, why not? I could definitely see the value in having it. And I can totally appreciate why some people would be on the fence about taking this type of insurance out, that being that it's totally peace of mind orientated. You don't need to have it for any compulsory reason, and it's something that would definitely need to be weighed up depending on how much free cash you have to be able to take out a policy and actually support a policy for many years down the line. Okay, moving on again, and this is one that's very interesting to me. This is one that I see a lot of people weigh up, and I actually have friends, I know people who have experienced the unpleasantries in terms of their financial situation because they didn't actually have this next type of insurance. And that is pet insurance, which is probably pretty obvious what it's intended to target. However, for those who need a little bit more context, this would be in the instance where a pet falls ill or is injured and requires veterinary attention. Generally, this insurance is aimed to cover those types of costs. Depending on the level of cover that you take out for this type of insurance, it can cover a lot of different things, all the way down from the low-hanging fruit for things like regular checkups as well as vaccinations, all the way up to the more expensive and complex procedures like surgeries and cancer. As it goes for most insurance policies, pet insurance will only cover a portion of the bill where you might be left with a gap, as well as you're going to have to pay a premium monthly or annually depending on the type of policy you take out. And depending on the type of pet insurance that you take out and the level of cover you have, there may be some additional bonuses as well worth looking into depending on where you live, what your situation is, and overall how much that pet is costing you in the background. Things like preventative care, natural therapies, as well as cover for lost or stolen pets is something that some may want to consider. It can help reduce the financial burden of unexpected expenses and ensure that your pet gets the care they need. If I personally were to welcome a pet into the family, I would definitely be looking at the appropriate level of cover I would need to ensure that that pet can get the care that it needs, as it's going to be under my care and I want to ensure that I can provide for it. Moving on now to a very specific type of insurance, which will have a very significant relevance for some, and that relevance will depend on where they live. It's going to be pretty obvious, but natural disaster insurance is going to be a must-have depending on where you live and the location of your valuable assets. If you live in a natural disaster zone, I'm talking about things like fires, potentially floods, as well as earthquakes, just to name three of the more common ones that we seem to be experiencing due to what can only be labeled as climate change. It's something that's going to have to be considered without a doubt. The impact of a natural disaster can truly be devastating. People are known to lose everything, which we have seen here in Australia, which is where I live, in the past decade tenfold. We've seen lots of different types of wildfires and floods in many of the states of the country, and it's just devastating for those who lose everything but don't actually have cover against these types of assets. The thing about these types of policies that's important to understand and definitely consider when taking them out is that not only does it cover the damage to a potential building that might be lost in one of those natural disasters, but also the financial impacts due to displacement while you're kind of, not living in that place while it's being rebuilt over a period of time. That can truly provide a serious amount of peace of mind and something that definitely should be considered when looking at taking out these policies. And that's as simple as it really needs to be for this one. If they're available, you live in the place where these things happen often and it's a must-have, find a policy that works for you. Now, the last type of insurance that I'm going to talk about in this video today is known as travel insurance, and it's intended to cover you when unexpected events happen while you're away from home. It can include anything from trip cancellations to displacement costs for unexpected delays, as well as potentially even lost or stolen luggage. Travel insurance policies also typically cover unexpected expenses incurred from a covered event. I'm talking about things such as medical treatment, evacuation, and potentially emergency travel expenses. Travel insurance is one of the biggest peace of mind policies that you can possibly take out, especially from a financial standpoint. Given the significant disparities in healthcare systems across nations, travel insurance is a crucial consideration to avoid the financial burden of expensive medical bills as well as unexpected expenses while away on a trip, whether it be for leisure or to visit loved ones. Now, just note that what I have discussed today is being provided for general educational purposes. It is not intended to provide financial, legal, or professional advice whatsoever. Before purchasing any type of insurance policy, I highly recommend understanding and reading thoroughly through the terms and conditions of said policy before taking it out. And if you're unsure that the policy is going to meet your needs, make sure to speak to a professional, someone who works at that company that you might be potentially getting a quote from, to definitely get that understanding again before making a purchase. Overall, insurance plays an important role in providing both financial security as well as peace of mind in the face of unexpected events. Whether it's business, trauma, natural disaster, pet, or travel insurance, there is a type of insurance out there that can definitely ensure that you have the coverage you need during times of need. It really is important not to just dismiss a type of insurance because you don't think that you might need it. Do an evaluation, do the activity, and figure it out before just saying, nah, that's not for me. It's the type of thing that if you neglect it now and don't take out the type of coverage you might actually need, you could end up facing tens of thousands, depending on where you live in the world, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills that could have been prevented for a small premium to pay each year. That pretty much is all I wanted to cover today. Now, I know that this is a very dry topic, so if you made it this far into the video, hopefully I provided some insight into these types of insurances and you can keep them in the back of your mind, and one day you might go, this has come up in my life. Is there a type of insurance that I might need? Yes, I can remember this video. I'm gonna go maybe rewatch it, do some research, and figure out if I need to take out a policy to make sure I'm covered. Hopefully that's what I've given you if you've made it all the way to the end of the video. That was the aim of today's video. So thank you very much for watching if you made it this far. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.